you went under the wheels.
Perfected.
Welcome to Under the Wheels. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And in today's episode, we are going to get animated with the Batman. See how I did that? Because it's the name of a cartoon. And it's also the name of this movie. And everyone, maybe I should have done like a Justin Timberlake thing, like, make it cleaner. Drop the. And they're like, no. We already have a Batman movie. We need to make the Batman. It's even more Batman-y. Your boy stars in it, Robert Pattinson as the Dark Knight.
As the Bat.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. As the Batman. What am I thinking? Also, I think we're going to get into this, but, what's with every single Batman movie and giving Bruce Wayne a weird haircut? Do you remember the 1989 Batman movie? And, Michael Keaton had,
Jerry curls?
I was going to say he had, an afro going on, but, he had the big 80s hair, but it wasn't, it wasn't done in, a crew cut or anything. It's is this the best we got? And then Christian Bale's haircut was pretty good in it, but
he just had the American Psycho Patrick Bateman haircut.
Yeah, it's Christopher Nolan saw American Psycho and he's like, oh yes, I like that. Without actually watching the movie, he's just like, oh yes, I like the way that he looks like Bruce Wayne. And then when he's actually Bruce Wayne, he's just like an absolute cartoon character. He's literally Patrick Bateman.
Yeah. And
then we have Robert Pattinson, who's got a haircut that's I don't know.
He also has Patrick Bateman's haircut.
There was a really weird scene where there was this one piece of hair that seemed like it was glued to his forehead when he's talking to Carmine Falcone. It's just glued to his forehead and sweaty. And I was like, why didn't the hair person get in and fix that? It's super distracting.
Come on. There's way weirder choices they made in this movie than pasting Patrick Bateman's hair onto Robert Pattinson.
All right,
Pattinson would have looked fine if he just had his normal haircut. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they did the Bateman haircut, but
so let's get into this immediately. Let's get into what do you give the Batman, starring Robert Pattinson and featuring Andy Serkis.
It's like a high witness, slow shiny.
That's how I feel. Cool. Moving on. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so the movie is 3 hours long. Did that play into your rating at all?
Yeah, because I had a pounding headache after it was over.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, sitting in a theater for 3 hours with that much concussive light and noise. Yeah, I got out of there and my eyes hurt. I think also the longer you make a movie, the more obviously the more opportunities you have to fill it with cool stuff, but also you're giving yourself more rope to hang yourself with if the movie's not great.
That's true.
So it's there's a lot of strangeness. Well, the movie for one does kind of just go in circles a lot.
Yes.
But on top of that, being really long tends to magnify what strange choices they make sometimes because they make more of them.
I agree. And the other thing is so for me, it comes down to a simple yes or no question. Did this movie earn its 3-hour runtime?
No.
I agree. I think there's a lot of things that happen, but the other thing is I call this movie slow and deliberately paced the movie until the action scenes. But every single thing they did was it's hey, look, can you grab this pen to sign your name? And all of a sudden Bruce Wayne is just moving his hand super slowly towards that pen. And then as he grabs it, you see each individual joint on his finger push down and get pressure. And then he has to pull the pen slowly up to his nose where he slowly sniffs it and stares at it. Yeah. And then he transfers it to his... that's every single movement in this movie was like that.
Well, it also has, it has two openings that are both really long. It has, 3 endings that are also quite extended, especially because of the stupid voiceover that only is at the beginning and at the end, which I just hate when movies do that. Like, if you're gonna have voiceover, have it throughout, or don't have it at all. Not like October 31st, Gotham. My eyes are incredibly dry, but I don't want to use eye drops because then the Batman's gonna beat the shit out of me.
My favorite is like he's doing the voiceover. So, like, just in case there probably will be spoilers throughout the movie. So anyway, you guys are warned. But like he's doing this voiceover, and I'm like, okay, this is odd. This is cool. And then he's like, the Gotham Project is going like interesting. It's been 2 years. Blah 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 blah. And then like they cut to him writing it down in a little journal, and I was just like, oh, he's got his little bat journal. That's so funny.
He's taking care of his mental health, guys.
I do 5-minute journaling every day.
The best part is both him and the Riddler do that.
As Austin would say, psychopath. That's what I got a lot of like Austin as Batman vibes throughout this movie. Which I don't think is a bad thing. Like I kind of think it's charming, but
it's kind of hilarious.
So like, yeah, I think that like for being 3 hours, it should have been 2.5 at most.
Yeah.
My major issue, and this is what I bring up to everyone. Like, I like the movie. Overall, I really like the movie. I think a lot of it works really well. Even though the color palette kind of grated on me. Like, if you look at the poster for the movie, it's like everything is like black and red and yellow. And like, boom, that's the movie. All right, guys, see you next week. But the middle of the movie, when all of the stuff with like, oh, you have to bring the rat out into the light, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Like, all of that stuff to me was so tedious. Like something happens to a major character and it causes Bruce Wayne to like flip a switch, and then he meets with a character, and all of that stuff. I'm like, this is so.
Oh yeah, all of the Bruce Wayne going back and forth, talking to people, hearing the different versions of the same story, that felt really tedious.
I feel like if there was pickups in this movie, which I think there were some pretty big pickups, I feel like those were where the pickups were. Because they just feel like it's weird that it happens when the scene with Bruce Wayne and Carmine Falcone happens with the awkward hairpiece.
Yeah.
That happens, and it just feels like it's the wrong location to have that put there. Like, it feels like it was like a rushed decision, but it doesn't, it just feels off.
Well, I don't know. There's a scene shortly after where he's talking to Alfred that's really jarringly edited. So I wonder if there were pickups in that as well. Because like it'll like cut mid-sentence or at weird points where like it emotionally doesn't make sense to do so, or it cuts like against its own movement. And it's kind of like, whoa, what was that?
And it'll cut to an angle that we hadn't seen before. And it's like, why are we doing this angle? This angle sucks. Like, go back to the other angle. Like, why are you introducing so many? So that makes a lot of sense to me. That scene, they had to do pickups just to like fill in a small thing here and there, and they put the green screen behind him and comp in the background.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the runtime unearned. Like, what do you think? What do you think you would? Well, let's get back to the runtime. So, what did you think of your boy Robert Pattinson as Batman and as Bruce Wayne?
I thought he was pretty good. He's a little one note, but it seems like. I think that's what the movie's going for, unfortunately. Like, you know, I think the best Batman is still Christian Bale, just because, one, he's really good, but he also has opportunities to do more. Mm-hmm. You know, he plays a different character as Batman versus as Bruce Wayne in private versus Bruce Wayne in public. Where with this, it's like Bruce Wayne is basically never in public. And what little time he does spend in front of other people, he just acts like Batman. So, yeah.
Were you disappointed?
I was kind of disappointed. I had very high hopes for Bobby.
I mean, he's been getting pretty universal acclaim. So, I think I think,
like I said, I mean, he's good. It's very limited.
There's not enough for him.
Yeah, it is very one note. I mean, well, the thing is everyone in the movie is pretty one note except John Turturro and Paul Dano. They're the only ones who kind of get to spread their wings a little bit. Everyone else is just like, I am the guy. I am serious all the time.
John Turturro. Wait, I'm in a comic book movie? Does that mean I get to be a cartoon character? Yay!
Yes! Yeah,
I didn't know John Turturro was in the movie until he showed up, and I was like, yeah, John,
I know.
welcome.
I mean, like Zoe Kravitz is good, but she's also like she plays the one thing, plays a single emotion the entire movie. Colin Farrell is a cartoon character, which is cool.
Colin Farrell doing his best Robert De Niro impression.
Yeah, he adds a little liveliness to it. Jeffrey Wright plays one emotion the entire movie. All of the super duper Italian cops play one emotion the entire movie. Peter Sarsgaard was good in like the 2 seconds he's in.
I was thinking that. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Peter Sarsgaard was in it. This cast is a lot more stacked than I thought. I guess it's bad to say like, oh yeah, you have a stacked cast when Peter Sarsgaard's in your movie, but like,
well, it's a stacked cast when Peter Sarsgaard is like relegated to a cameo in your movie.
I don't know. I feel like most people don't know who he is. They just look at him and it's like, oh, he's that creepy guy. He always plays the creepy guy. I did so. Going through it, I think the most disappointed I was that Jeffrey Wright didn't have enough to do. Like,
well, that's because you're a huge Jeffrey Wright fan.
I wouldn't say I'm a huge Jeffrey Wright fan, but I appreciate him. And like after
you are a Jeffrey Wright fan. I don't know if he has many fans.
Oh,
not because he's a bad actor, but just because
brother.
he's just like there in a lot of stuff.
he's the guy. Anytime they need to like race flip someone, they're just like, just get Jeffrey Wright to do it.
Who's the lightest skinned black person we can find to race flip this character? Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, I felt like he didn't have enough to do as Felix Leiter in No Time to Die. So I was looking forward to like, okay, maybe this time, it'll be a little bit more from Gordon's point of view. But nope, Gordon was he's about as important in this movie as he was in any movie. In the old Batman movies. From
did you ever see
80s and 90s?
You ever seen Westworld?
No, I think I watched the first episode.
Okay, it's not a good show, but if you like Jeffrey Wright, he actually does have a lot to do in that show. Like, he's really good in it. You get to see him shine for once. Because in movies, he's just kind of there. Like, oh, look, it's Jeffrey Wright. Oh, bye, Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the Basquiat movie either, but he's the main character, so I'm sure he's good in that.
He was pretty good in, what was it? That one movie directed by Peter Bowie. Oh my God, David Bowie's son. The movie Duncan Jones he did with Jake Gyllenhaal. I forgot what that movie was called. He was pretty good in that, but he was also a cartoon character in that. So, yeah. What else? He was in. He was also in Syriana, I think, as well. So,
but can you imagine like if they got Denzel to be Commissioner Gordon? Like, how much cooler would that have been?
I don't know. I think I like Jeffrey Wright. I like the choice. Or like, I think they would probably go with like, at this point, Courtney B. Vance to be like ADA Carver from Criminal Intent. Cause I always have to find a way to reference Vincent D'Onofrio when I can. Denzel would have been good, but that's also like in the original. So just a reminder, in the 1989 Batman movie, like Harvey Dent was played by Billy D. Williams.
Billy D. Williams, yeah.
It's like, it's a shame that didn't go anywhere. I would have loved to see Billy D. Williams as Two-Face.
That would have been kind of cool, but Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face is so bad that it's kind of amazing.
Comes back around and is brilliant again.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Everyone in that movie knows what movie they're trying to be in, except for Val Kilmer, who's like still being like, I'm a serious actor, goddammit.
I know.
And he's just like, Oh, poor Val Kilmer.
Somehow, I think the way that set went was like Jim Carrey showed up and just started being Jim Carrey, and then everyone else saw that and was like, you know what? I think he's got the right idea. Fuck whatever this movie is. I'm just gonna do that now.
Joel Schumacher comes in. He's like, "Are you sure we couldn't get Adam West to be Batman? Like, that's what I'd prefer." All right, we'll just put a bunch of neon lights everywhere. He was way ahead of his time with all those neon. Like, do you like the Tommy guns in that movie had little like fluorescent tubes in them that had like neon lights that they were shooting? I was like, "What is this?" But yeah, the Batman doesn't have any of that. The Batman's like super depressing. Okay, one thing.
Yeah, it's super duper duper grimdark.
Like, the one thing I will say is, like, I appreciate this movie. I'm glad it came out. It's great. I really want sort of like a Dick Sprang 1960s style, like, fun Batman movie where it's not just like bad guys killed my parents. Now I'm obsessed with death and vengeance and darkness. Like, I want like a nice looking Gotham City where like people are kind of like okay walking around and like Batman runs across a giant typewriter as he's fighting someone or something like that. Like,
I'm okay with this because the
giant typewriter should be in Superman.
No, the Batman tetralogy from the 90s was pretty cartoonish already, and then Christopher Nolan's Batman movies. Batman Begins is pretty comic booky, but Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises are very much like oh, we're just in Chicago now. There's no stylization in the latter two.
Yeah.
And then this one, I liked that it went back to being ultra stylized and comic booky while keeping the darker tone. So we kind of get the best of both. We get the more serious tone, but we get super like comic booky stylization where everything looks cool but also just super over the top. Like all of the lights and shadows and everything just look absurd in a good way. Mm-hmm. Like, I really liked the visual design of the movie. I really like the way the movie looks. It really sells you on kind of the oppressive atmosphere of the world the characters live in, and it makes for just a lot of really good looking shots and visuals. Like when the Batmobile gets its own like pro wrestling entrance. Like, that was cool. Like, there's no other way around it. Like, that's pretty awesome. And you can only do that in
being stylized.
In a hyper stylized visual setting. The car chase, even though the shot selection was not great, looked really cool. It was very reminiscent of Prisoners, oddly enough, when Jake Gyllenhaal is driving the kids to the hospital at the end of the movie. A lot of what was I gonna say? Like everything in the club, the Iceberg Lounge, which I feel like is a thing from the Arkham video games.
And dude, he did a fight move from the Arkham video games too.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
And 44 Below, like all that looks really cool. Falcone's pool room looks really cool. It's just like a lot of the, it's like this kind of insane version of film noir where you take the visual design of that time period, like a lot of the Art Deco, old Hollywood look, and then try to bring it to life in color. You kind of have like this crazy, smoky, dark, kind of German expressionist, kind of film noir look that I think it's a cool way to go. I'm glad that we have a Batman movie that is like that is so atmospheric, especially after coming off of the Zack Snyder movies, which have Zack Snyder doesn't know what atmosphere is, and couldn't set one if he tried. And then the Christopher Nolan movies, which Christopher Nolan knows how to create atmosphere, but for him, he keeps things very stark, very cold, very like visually clean and clear. And it works for his movies, which are like meant to feel
like right angles.
well, that's one way to put it. They're meant to feel like, oh, this could be happening in America right now. Like that's kind of how it's meant to feel. Whereas, like that's fine, but like I also want to have a Batman that takes place in like a total fantasy land, which is how this one is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think it's funny because I was looking at this and one of my brother-in-law was like, it would be fun as if like Mr. Freeze were in the Batman movie. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense because this world is so like realistic and gritty. And I was looking online and someone's like, well, hold on. So I was looking online and someone's like, yeah, this world's so realistic and gritty when he has a freaking contact lens that both records audio and visual for everything he sees and also every other camera angle in the movie. And I was like, good point.
Yeah,
it still feels off, but yeah, or like his indestructible bat suit.
Well, no, it's like a Guillermo del Toro Batman. Like that's how it feels. It feels like the world of Hellboy or something. Or Blade 2.
It feels like the world of Hellboy or Blade 2 as shot by, like, Haskell Wexler.
I know. Well, so yeah, as great as the visual design of the movie is, like I said, the shot selection left a lot to be desired. There's a lot of weird first person or second person shots that are incredibly disorienting, and I think they're made. The idea is like, oh, this'll look cool, and it kind of looks cool, but it ends up divorcing you from what's happening in a really weird way. Like when when Batman jumps off the roof to escape the police and he's gliding through the air, there's like a couple shots from first person. There's a shot on his face where the camera's like glued to his head. And the whole world is moving around behind him. Yeah. Like both of those are incredibly disorienting. And then he gets hit by a truck, which is hilarious.
Hold on, just quickly about that. So I like those shots. I felt like it's that whole idea of and you can take it or leave it. The whole idea of like the camera needs to be in a realistic position. So I'm okay with those shots. But when he got hit by the truck, at first I was like, but this Batman doesn't seem like he would do that. It seems like he's a good like year out of making really stupid mistakes like that. And then my next shot was like, no one can say that this movie's not funny. Because look, there's a comedy scene right there. We were laughing.
That has the best slapstick in a superhor movie in like the last 3 years.
It's like the most random slapstick moment.
I know. But continuing that, like the car chase also has a lot of shots that are very disorienting and don't seem to fit super well. I mean, the whole chase is shot in a very disorienting way. But then the other kind of issue I have with the photography is like the whole movie is so dark, and by dark I mean there's not much light to film by.
Right.
There's a lot of really shallow depth of field where like you can't see shit because it's all out of focus. And I think that's because there's just not enough light to see everything and get a greater depth of field in a lot of scenes. I'm just guessing. But there's a lot of moments where the really shallow depth of field doesn't work because you're looking at a blur for most of the shot, and then maybe at the very end of it, something appears in the tiny slice of reality that is in focus. And there was just too much of that. There's too much shallow depth of field.
Yeah, it goes along with this sort of like deliberate pace of everything, where it's like it feels like every time they're using those like shallow depth of field shots, it's also like my hand has decided to move in slow, like it's in molasses. It's a visual style. I think they were trying to sort of mimic how people feel like movies like Seven are, where it's like, oh, if we only keep certain things in focus and and put the important stuff in like blurred and have something insignificant in focus. It's like, isn't that trippy? It reflects the dark underbelly of this world because on the outside everything looks fine, but it's in the details that. So,
but it's also like,
does that make sense?
It's also like Batman's like, I'm going to use my grappling hook. But the shot of him using a grappling hook is a giant blur. And then his grappling hook extends into the area that's in focus. It's just like, what the fuck? I had no idea what was going on until the grappling hook moved into the focus point.
I don't know if it was this particular movie or if it was something else I was watching recently. I feel like I've been watching a lot of stuff, but it was a movie that I saw in theaters, and I was just thinking to myself, like, was the focus puller off? Why does everything look so blurry? And I figured it was just the theater I was in, but if it was this movie, then maybe like the focus puller was just like a friend who needed a job and he just sucked at his job. I don't know, but like,
I think it's intentional.
Some of that stuff is, but like some of it is like two people talking and someone's just a little bit soft in the way where it's like lens abrasion.
That is kind of true, yeah.
Like
but think about it though. They're always talking in like a dark basement with no light. So yeah, of course, like someone's gonna be a little soft because like how much like if they used a lens where you had a wider depth of field, you wouldn't see anything. It would just be black.
Yeah.
So it's like at least we can see one guy's silhouette sharply, and we can see kind of a hazy silhouette of the person they're talking to. Oh no, the hazy person's moving their mouth. Quick rack focus up. No, we cut.
It's funny because because like you were praising so much of the production design, and like it should be praised, and like the lighting department, you know, it falls under the camera department. And I was like, oh yeah, well, do you know who shot it? And now I'm afraid to tell you.
I know.
But it was shot by Dune Guy, by Greg Fraser, the guy who stepped in for
Raj.
Yeah, everyone's favorite. So Dune Guy shot this. Greg Fraser. I think.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like the movie, the design of the visuals of the movie, the planning, the lighting, the art direction, the costumes, the props, all of that is beautiful. It's incredible. The way it's captured and put on screen is like solid.
The way it's put on screen is fine.
It is like decent.
It certainly is a thing that they did.
They managed to capture something. Like it's pretty good for the most part. It's just there's a lot of like little. There's a lot of little little flubs, I guess, that are just like, I don't know. Which is like in stark contrast to the audio design of the movie, which is like everything sounds great, except it's all boring. Like I want to shout out Michael Giacchino, who I like as a composer, and I have a lot of respect for him for turning in perhaps the worst superhero score I've ever heard.
So mean. So mean.
Which is crazy because like I really like Michael Giacchino. I thought his score for Star Trek was awesome. His work on Up is iconic. And then this, it's like, what is the worst theme imaginable for Batman? And he's like, I know what it is. I know what it is. We'll take the Imperial March from Star Wars and then reduce it to 2 notes. And that'll be the theme for the whole fucking movie.
I need to clip that and send it to Aaliyah because I was trying to remember what the Batman theme was. Because I actually like it.
Oh, no!
I did not hate the music. Although I am tired of everyone just reducing the Batman theme to like minimalism. Like that's that. When you think of Batman, what do you think? Minimalism. You mean
I think Darth Vader with less. It's literally Darth Vader's theme from the Imperial March from Empire Strikes Back, stripped to 2 notes. It's dun 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 dun. That's it. That's his theme for the whole movie. And then the score for the movie is that and shrieking violins. And the Hans Zimmer ticking sound. It's dun 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 dun, ticking sound, shrieking violins. That's the entire score.
I feel like I'm probably in the minority who appreciated it. And like I said, I wish that they would have, like, I still think Danny Elfman's Batman score is like the best.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Easily.
But like, I kind of wish they'd be a little bit more complicated with a Batman score. That's why I was looking forward to Michael Giacchino doing the music, because he's like right on the verge of being able to make like really earwormy scores.
Well, yeah, I mean, just think about his score for Up. Think about his score for Star Trek 2009. Those are super earwormy. Those are great.
His score for Lost elevated the entire show.
I haven't seen Lost, but
I know, but just trust me that his score for Lost is like
I believe you.
is really good. But then like he has Up, he has Star Trek. He did the music for Ratatouille.
Yeah,
for The Incredibles.
Ratatouille is also an iconic earwormy score.
But then he's like turned in like the Doctor Strange score is literally just like a slight variation on the Star Trek score, and the score he did for Spider-Man, the Spider-Man trilogy, like I have to rack my brain super hard to remember what the song is for that.
You're talking about John Watts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that's where I'm like, he's on the, or like I know the score for Rogue One just because that opening when the Star Wars appears, it's like a variation on the Star Wars theme. That's like the royalty-free version of the Star Wars theme.
The Batman theme is a royalty-free version of the fucking Star Wars theme.
I felt like the Batman theme was, he's like, okay, I need to do it like Hans Zimmer because everyone liked the Dark Knight score, and it's like, I appreciate what you did, and I like, again, I appreciate, as they say in Forgetting Sarah Marshall, dark tones. It's not a song. It's just dark tones. But yeah, it's so like it's like a bad TV movie where they just decide to have a score going the entire movie and don't fluctuate that score or change it up. My mom
they
used to
changed
watch
the
this
speed
thing
of
where it was that
dun
way.
dun 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 dun.
Yeah, but it's like the same thing throughout the whole movie.
Well,
so
that's my point. That's why it sucks.
agree. Well, that's why I think I understand people who don't like it. I still think it was like a good way to go, but I think maybe get a little bit more music in there, because like we were already primed for that score because that's the whole score in the trailer. So like we got the whole score in the trailer of the movie. That's bad.
That's pretty bad, yeah. Can you imagine if they got like Ludwig Göransson to do the score for this?
You know what's funny? I watched Turning Red last night, and Ludwig Göransson did the score for that movie. He's like everywhere. He's like all over the Disney stuff right now.
That's crazy. It's crazy that Disney got him, of all people.
Out of all things, I know. I think it's like that Black Panther it's like he did the stuff for Ryan Coogler, and then Jon Favreau's like, "Ooh, I'll get you to do the Star Wars stuff."
Well, it's funny because he only got in on Black Panther because he was like a hip hop producer.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, he also did the music for New Girl, so there's that.
Now that's weird.
No, it's weird that you can draw a pretty easy line from like New Girl to The Mandalorian.
That's really weird.
Anyway, if you guys want to know what that line is, it's the fact that Peyton Reed was one of the main directors for New Girl. He then directed Ant-Man, and then he directed a handful of episodes for The Mandalorian, including the infamous season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. So there's another connection between New Girl and... Yeah, so if you want to get out there and you want to direct TV, remember, nothing is beneath you as a TV director, because you could be directing Entourage one day and then some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones the next. There you go. What else did... There's so much to talk about in this movie, and you went in so many different directions. They're all great. So let's talk a little bit about I did want to tell you this. The opening of the movie... Like within 3 minutes, the first thought that I had was, oh yeah, my wife's not gonna like this movie. Because it's just like POV of a character, heavy breathing. I was like, nope, she's out. Yeah, that, like, I think that's a great opening scene, though. So, like, you talked about how there's 2 opening scenes, and it's one of those things where it's like, dang, it's too bad we have 2 really great opening scene ideas. But I think what they wanted to do was mimic The Dark Knight, where The Dark Knight had that, like, fantastic opening scene with the Joker, and then it got into sort of the plot of it, like an anime. The first episode is just the action, and then the second episode explains the world. And like that didn't bug me as much because it's like in that first scene you're kind of like, all right, I'm thrown off for the first 10 minutes of the movie. And then it felt like 10 minutes. Well, and then it's like we have our next opening where it's like, okay, now we're introduced to like this is what this Batman is going to be. What is he going to be? And he looks at the screen and says, Vengeance. Also apparently bulletproof.
Yep. Well, kind of. To a point.
Yeah, like, quote, to a point where he can take a full shotgun blast to the chest. And then, well, anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Well, he almost, like, died from that. He had to shoot himself full of adrenaline to get up.
I appreciate that because, like, you know, in the 1960s TV show, he'll pull something out of his utility belt that looks like a liquid thing, and it's like, oh, it's bat shark repellent or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he pulls out a liquid thing from his utility belt, and I'm like, oh, it's like bat shark repellent. And he sticks it in his leg, and I was like, there we go. Okay. So it's like a nice little, there were a lot of nice little homages and twists on those homages, which I like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, and more to the point that this movie is a fantasy, more so than a gritty, realistic Batman, is that, like, he just has, like, bizarre gadgets falling out of his trousers everywhere he goes, you know? And there's no explanation for any of them either, where it's like with Christopher Nolan's movies, I felt like it seems like they felt the need to explain everything and, like, to try and ground it. Where it's like, oh, this gadget is this thing, and it works like this, and this is why it's necessary. Don't question it. Whereas with this, it's like, this is my bad adrenaline. Ugh! You know, and we all just accept that it is what it is, you know? It doesn't offer to explain anything.
Yeah, it does. It's like,
or is we know like his crazy fucking contact lenses that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. That's like that look incredibly painful to wear.
Yeah, he pulls it out, and I was like, oh, my brother's not gonna like that. He doesn't like eye stuff, and I'm like, ugh.
My bat contacts. It's like, okay, sure, yeah, man.
Next scene, you see Bruce Wayne putting on glasses. He's like, I need them to see, but also it's a helpful utility for me.
My eyes are really dry from these contacts, but the only drops around are the drug drops, which are really confusing because I don't know when people are talking about eye drops or narcotics. I thought the drops thing was weird. Like we need to make up a narcotic for this movie, so they're like, eye drops, they're drop heads. It's like, just say heroin, man. It's fine. We're adults. We're all grown-ups here.
I think it was like a little like a wink to Minority Report, because in Minority Report they put weird eye drops in their eyes, like Tom Cruise gets high on eye drops. It's like maybe it says something. Well, I know why in that movie, because like the whole movie is obsessed with eyeballs.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is just like a little homage, like, hey, do you remember when you thought it was so cool when Tom Cruise was getting high on eye drops? It's back!
Just say heroin. It's heroin.
I wonder if like they put that in the script, they send it off to Warner's. Warner sends it back. He's like, no, you're not getting a PG-13 rating if you refer to the H word.
They have hookers in the movie, man. If you can have sex workers, you can have heroin. I don't understand why they got to like dance around the drug issue. But every female character is a prostitute in this movie.
Not true. There's
okay,
the mayor.
Except for the mayor. But she's the only one.
And Bruce Wayne's maid.
Oh, I don't know, man. You saw she was looking at Alfred.
She's just moonlighting. So okay, let's get into some. By the way, Alfred doing the ciphers was like very comic book goofy. I really liked that because it was just like, oh, hello, sir. I have to do my morning crossword puzzle. Thank you for giving me this cipher. As I drink my tea and eat my eggs, I'm gonna solve the cipher of like a mass murderer. Like it was kind of like, it felt like really jokey and funny, especially with like sort of the calm attitude he went about solving it, where he's just like, oh, see, you got this wrong here, like a teacher correcting a paper, instead of like, this is the key to solving everything. But then like, so the bomb gets sent to Wayne Manor, and like Bruce calls the house, and like the maid picks up. It's like, yes. It's like, tell Alfred not to open any packages. And the maid is just like, it's too late, sir. And I thought it was going to be
he blew up 2 hours ago.
Well, I thought it was going to be a plot twist where it's like she's like a sinister person working for the Riddler, and like she gets all creepy, like, it's too late, sir. He's already been blown up. And then all of a sudden you like cue the scene from The Dark Knight where Batman has to race back to try and rescue Rachel. And it's just like, does he have enough time to make it before the bomb? And they're like, no, they're just playing with us with time.
Yeah. The
bomb already exploded, and the nurse is not actually a sinister person. And I was kind of sad a little bit. I thought that would have been a fun little twist. But should we talk about the plot of the movie at all? And then talk about Paul Dano maybe? Because like...
So I guess, should I just spoil the movie now?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Batman is about the Batman.
Very well put.
He has to solve so the Riddler is murdering the mayor, the police commissioner, and various other people, the DA as well, like corrupt officials and important politicians. And the Batman is trying to figure out why. Meanwhile, Carmine Falcone exists, and the Penguin works for him. And the Riddler leaves all these clues about what he's doing. He's like, you know, Gotham is corrupt. Everything about the city is bad. Yada, yada, yada. There's a whole lot of waffling around. Catwoman is there trying to get revenge on various people for various things. And then... Fuck. So... The Riddler says that there's a drug bust. The biggest drug bust in Gotham history is when Sal Maroni got arrested for manufacturing these narcotic eye drops. But the Riddler says the drug bust is a fraud and that it's a cover-up for something else. And so what is going on is... There's a rat. There's someone in the mafia who gave information on Maroni for the drug bust, and that this person is incredibly dangerous and being protected by the police and the DA and the mayor, who are all dead now, in return for this information. So most of the movie is Batman trying to find out who the rat is and why all this matters. And what we discover is that Thomas Wayne, when he ran for mayor, however many years before, created this thing called the Gotham Renewal Fund, which is a charitable endowment worth like $1 billion. But when he died, every person with power in the city tried to grab a piece of it because it's the perfect money laundering vehicle. So the person who had his eyes really set on it was Carmine Falcone. So to get his hands on it, he basically ingrained himself with the existing power structure, the police, the DA, the mayor, and so on, to where they basically worked for him. And he informed on Sal Maroni to get him put in prison and ensure and sort of solidify his control over the city and make sure that everyone whose career was made off of that arrest was indebted to him. And so that he basically had unlimited access to all these politicians and unlimited access to the renewal fund. The Riddler wants to kill everyone involved. He tells Batman to find the rat and bring him to the light. So, you know, Batman finds out it's Falcone, brings Falcone out, and the Riddler kills him. And the only other target that the Riddler wants to get is Bruce Wayne, because the Riddler was an orphan, and his orphanage was set up by the Renewal Fund, and he blames the death of Thomas Wayne for him being forgotten, and everyone focusing on Bruce Wayne being like this poor rich orphan, when life for poor orphans was really horrible. So yeah, Carmine Falcone is killed. Batman, or the Riddler, turns himself in, and then Batman's like, "We got you, you son of a bitch," and then he's like, "Not yet. I still have another thing that you didn't figure out." And Batman discovers that the Riddler planted bombs all around the seawall, because Gotham is not only New York, but New Orleans as well. And the bombs explode, and the whole city floods, and everyone goes to Madison Square Garden to watch a basketball game or something. No, I'm just kidding. They go to Madison Square Garden, which is like the shelter of last resort. The Riddler has a bunch of his online followers there who are all dressed as him, ready to carry out a mass shooting. Batman beats the shit out of all of them and then saves people from the flood. And that's kind of the end. That's pretty much it.
Day 6. I want a burrito, but all the trucks are destroyed, so I can't have one. November 6th. There's no food anywhere. I don't know how we're going to do Thanksgiving. It makes me sad. Alfred's still in the hospital.
So, yeah, that's basically the story. Yeah.
Batman learns that there's more to life than vengeance.
Yes. That's the moral of our story.
And Catwoman, who I mentioned at the beginning, is just sort of there doing stuff, is also there doing stuff.
So let's go back to the whole Batman as vengeance thing, because it's kind of like the perverse realization or reflection of what was happening.
One thing real quick.
Yes.
I apologize if my synopsis sounded really pointlessly complicated and circular, but the movie itself is pointlessly complicated and circular.
Yeah, it's weird for for a movie that's about character development and it's 3 hours long. There's a surprising little amount of actual character development in the movie, which was my problem, and which is why I was it shouldn't have been 3 hours, because you want significant changes.
Yeah.
Also,
you're talking about
movies.
You're talking about the vengeance thing.
I'm talking about in general. So all of these characters we're talking about are one note. If it's 3 hours long, Selena Kyle should have time to give more of an impression, aside from just spunky girl who says baby a lot, and who randomly starts making out with Batman. That was the one thing. I was watching it and I was like, I don't know if I would say they have chemistry right now, but all of a sudden she's talking about how she's looking for her friend who's possibly dead, and now she's making out with Batman, who probably has terrible breath. Just because he's been out for multiple nights and is what does he drink? Just electrolytes and sugar. But she doesn't really have she doesn't have as much to do as you would think. Jeffrey Wright doesn't have as much to do or even as much development as you'd think he would have. He's literally just he's not even a point of view character. He's just he's the cop that walks in on a cop show and is hey, I have the information you need. That's it. So, and then Andy Serkis, it's a 3 hour movie. We've seen a lot of 3 hour movies that feature Andy Serkis as a CG character. Mm-hmm. Come on. I just want a little bit more real Andy Serkis in 3 hour movies. I feel Alfred is aside from maybe The Dark Knight and Batman Begins, for the most part, Alfred is always pushed aside when he's really one of the most fun characters, because the way that you create him to play off of the version of Bruce Wayne that you have helps to make Batman a little bit more human, and the movie's a little bit more fun. Mm-hmm. And he also has this emotional moment that kind of feels earned because the actors do a really good job, even though it's very like Saturday morning or like after school special.
Yeah, I mean, the actors do better than the material, I think.
But it's like, it makes sense that he's having this revelation, and it even makes sense that he's having this revelation at this point where he's like, they even do the setup and payoff thing where it's like, if I was your father, and it's like, it's a good thing you're not, and you know, everyone in the audience is like, oh, and then later on it's like, Alfred, you're the closest thing I ever had to a father, and
you're not my real dad.
Shut up, Alfred, you're not my real father. And it's like, father, I just want the precious. Or, you know, add in a reference to Caesar, I guess. But, like, that moment in the movie lands because the actors are good, but it didn't feel as earned as it should have. And that's why I think, like, the middle of the movie has a lot of problems. Like to the point, like, why is the penguin even in this movie? It's like the most expensive red herring ever made.
Oh, yeah. There's no point for him to be in the movie, but he's there.
Like, not only that, but like Colin Farrell had to go through probably like hours of makeup and like to show up, and he, you know, at least he got to do his thing where he can like put a lot of character into it, but at the extent of like being in the movie 15 minutes, he's like going to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for being in it for 15 minutes. And people are like, yeah, isn't it great? He should win.
Master Bruce, ape alone, weak. Apes together, strong.
Are you doing Andy Serkis? He like has a cane, but instead of the cane, it's the thing that he uses to walk like an ape in Planet of the Apes. But I mean, Colin Farrell, like, he comes in and he's just like, I'm here, I'm a bad guy, I'm in a chase scene, and then you don't hear from me ever again. Oh, here's my HBO Max TV show. Like,
well, that's the other thing. They're gonna have a fucking shared universe with multiple movies and TV shows. It's like, just kill me now. I don't want a shared universe in this universe. God no. I just want this movie.
I wouldn't mind seeing more Colin Farrell. Like, maybe give him his own like HBO Max made for TV movie where he learns that, I don't know, penguins were the friends we made the whole time or something.
Maybe the real penguins were the friends we made along the way.
There it is.
Yeah. Well, but like, it's like going back to character development. Like, that is the lesson that Bruce learns is, ape together is strong.
It's Matt Reeves, like, Spielberg daddy issues.
I know.
It's like, together we're stronger.
Well, because, his whole thing is like, vengeance, 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 vengeance. And then later in the movie, he, like, the Riddler is motivated purely by vengeance. And he's like, maybe there's more to life than vengeance. It's like, yes, we have a moral 3 hours later.
I know this is weird. I like the moral of the story because
it's a good one for Batman. Like, it's a good idea.
It's a good one for the Batman. Or is it? I'm thinking in hindsight, we probably should have had Mike on here because he's like the Batman guy.
I know.
But he might be sad as we're just like...
It's really good. Like, it's a good idea, and it's a good way to take the character. But it's just like... It not enough happens during the movie, and then it just like comes in right at the end in a voiceover. And you're like, okay, I mean, I guess...
No, Gabe, you're missing the point. You know how this movie is slow, deliberately paced the movie? It's also slow, deliberately paced character development, the movie.
Where it all happens at once at the very end.
Where it's like they put these little drops in that we can't see because it's happening so slowly and deliberately. And then at the end, it seems like it's flipping. No, it's the moral of the story that's like, that's great for a 2-hour movie. Or even a 30-minute cartoon episode.
Yeah.
But I like the moral of it because like so many people are just like, it's Batman. He's he's a fascist. It's Batman. He takes the law into his own hands. It's Batman. He's all about vengeance. And it's like, oh hey, look, there's Batman saving people's lives.
Yeah.
which I like.
There's
I think
the image of him saving people from the flood with a flare in his hand that is lingered on for like a pornographically long time. It's like, this is thematic. It means things, guys.
it would have been better. So what you're saying is it would have been better if like the flare was coming from two of his hands that were outstretched in Jesus on a cross pose.
And he was descending from the sky. Yeah.
No, he was hanging from the from his bat wire.
He was descending upside down like a bat.
Oh man. Oh.
No, like him saving people from the flood was cool. It just should have happened quicker. Like there's a lot of stuff
slow,
that's cool. It should
deliberately
just
paced.
happen faster.
That's this whole movie.
It should have been, a lot of stuff should have either happened faster or should have been cut. I mean, like the plot is good as like a murder mystery plot, but it is insanely convoluted and and circular, and you tend to lose things along the way. Like if Carmine Falcone was so powerful, why did he need to rat on Maroni to become more powerful? You know, like stuff like that just keeps popping up, but whatever. Right. It's not important.
I mean, and again, we'll probably, if we ever get comments, we'll probably get someone, because the first thought I had was like I had a thought to immediately counter that, but you know, it's something that should be in the text of the movie and not something that like I'm, you know, justifying after the fact. So
yeah, I mean, it could have been like a throwaway line that I missed that kind of more clearly explains the machinations of why all this happened, but
yeah,
you know, it is what it is. I mean, you get the general sense, you get the basic idea, which is enough. What was I gonna say? I mean, the Riddler's whole plan and a lot of the stuff that he was about, I think, worked really well.
Let's talk
about. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I do want to talk a lot about the Riddler because I think like that was the one thing in the whole movie that just worked.
Yeah, well, it's very, you know, you can tell like they're trying to do the Zodiac thing, and it works really well. It's kind of he's got a little bit of the, you know, Heath Ledger, we live in a society, like posting videos on social media shit going on.
This isn't gonna age.
Turns out we live in a society is timeless. Apparently,
no, the social media post, like as soon as he posts on social media, it's like, oh, that's not going to be outdated in like a year and a half.
It's not. That's not already outdated. But yeah, you know, like all of that works really well. His belief system and his motivations work really well. They are like. They're interesting. They're captivating. Like, you can understand why he feels the way he does. You can understand the parts of his anger and resentment that are justified. But then, like, it still does a good job of... It does what Marvel fails to do a lot of the time, where it's like, you agree with the villain up to a point, but then there's a clear, very, very clear line that they cross. Mm-hmm. Where you're like, okay, now you're the bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas, like... with a lot of Marvel villains, and also like Zack Snyder villains. Like Zack Snyder's villains and the hero are always on the same page. They just disagree about like nothing really. They just disagree about like methods.
They disagree about whose world order is better.
Yeah,
mine is. Well, but it's the same world order. I know, but because I came up with it, mine's better. But you didn't. We came up, but yeah.
But like with Marvel villains, like a lot of them are like, or like not a lot of them, but like it's like the Thanos problem where it's like
the Thanos problem. That's the main
they
one,
don't show why. Like Thanos is bad for obvious reasons, but they don't show why. They just try to make him extremely agreeable. Mm-hmm. Whereas with this, like they try to make the Riddler very not agreeable, but like you understand why he's doing it, and then. Once he crosses the line into just indiscriminately killing innocent people, you're like, okay, you have officially crossed the line, buddy. That would be funny if Batman said that.
Day 7, the Riddler crossed the line.
You have
officially crossed the line, pal.
It's like, okay, he's very clearly crossed the line. Now we gotta stop him. And like that's good. Mm-hmm. That's good villain writing.
The other thing is, like, I don't know why this didn't work with Thanos, but like when the Riddler puts Alfred in the hospital, when the Riddler puts Baby in a corner, when the Riddler puts Alfred in the hospital, like, that's your moment of, like, he probably already didn't like him because you get the first person of him breathing heavily, and then all of these, like, really insane death traps he creates, which also don't help make him relatable. But, like, when the bomb goes off on Alfred, you're just like, oh, man, this fucker's going down. We need justice for Alfred.
Yeah.
So they do a really good job of establishing that, even though Thanos kills, like, you know, half the world and, like, throws Gamora off a cliff. It's like, oh, but still, Thanos was right. Like, ugh. No.
But yeah, I mean, the thing with the Riddler, the only thing about his character that I found lacking was I wanted more riddles. More like riddles.
Yeah.
But
I was about to say,
I thought he was great.
I was about to say, like, you're wrong. Everything about the Riddler was perfect. And then I was like thinking about Batman Forever's riddles, which, by the way, I have a funny Batman Forever thing that I just found out. But the Batman Forever's riddles, where it was like, that's if you want to say anything nice about Batman Forever, Batman being able to solve the riddles really quickly was a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, like, that's really cool. Yeah. They got to have a riddle off. We didn't get a riddle off in this movie.
We didn't. I mean, and you even have Andy Serkis, who did a riddle off with Bilbo in The Hobbit. Like, yeah, come on, Andy Serkis.
Well, I guess you kind of did when
scene.
Peter Sarsgaard had the bomb on him, and
that's
like,
true.
3 riddles, 2 minutes. Here we go. It's like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
that was cool.
Fun. I like
cool.
this.
That was cool. This movie is fun. What are we doing? Like,
yes, like all the Riddler stuff is great. Like, he's a really well-written character. His plot line is really well constructed.
Yes,
and riddles are fun.
I also like, so Paul Dano is a fantastic actor. Like, obviously, you know, great because he's in There Will Be Blood, and like, I haven't seen Swiss Army Man, but
Paul
really
Dano is amazing at playing Eli from There Will Be Blood in every fucking movie.
Paul Dano's like, he's like Leonardo DiCaprio. He has 2 modes: very calm and histrionics to the nth degree.
I know.
But I love that, like, if you don't know who Paul Dano is and you're watching the movie and all of a sudden, like, they reveal who the Riddler is. Sorry, Austin just messaged us. I don't like Joe Buck at all. That's it. No context or anything. But in the Batman, like, it's revealed that, you know, Paul Dano is the Riddler, and you see him in prison and he's wearing these glasses and he looks like your accountant. Mm-hmm. And like, it's perfect. And like, I remember when that scene happened, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I would think the Riddler would look like. A very normal, maybe kind of slightly odd person who's just like very calm and matter of fact and smart, because he was able to figure out who Batman was pretty easily.
Almost. But not really.
Well, he did. He did. He figured it out. He figured out it was Bruce Wayne, but then he was like, I'm not Bruce Wayne. It's like, oh, okay, fine.
No, he didn't. That whole scene was like, Bruce Wayne, blah, 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 is what I would say if you were Bruce Wayne, but you're not.
Oh, is that what happened? I thought you got it. Oh.
That one scene is one of the most hilariously kind of bad scenes in the movie, because his performance is really good, and he goes on this whole monologue about Bruce Wayne and how much he hates Bruce Wayne, talking to Batman, and then Batman is just standing there, like, looking at the wall, like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And he's like, Bruce Wayne, I hate Bruce Wayne. I was an orphan too, but the TV news didn't care about me. No, all they could talk about is Bruce Wayne. I want Bruce Wayne to die so bad, Bruce Wayne. Anyway, you're not Bruce Wayne, are you, Batman? That was totally irrelevant. It sucks that I couldn't get to Bruce Wayne, and then Batman's just like, oh.
Oh, dude.
Oh,
damn
thank
it.
God.
Now I have to go back in and watch an hour and a half of this movie so I can get to that scene again.
Yeah.
Because
that scene was so funny. Because it's like, the whole monologue obviously implies that he knows Bruce Wayne. And then at the end, it's just, at the end of the monologue, he's like, that's what I would say if you were Bruce Wayne, but you're not. It's just like, oh my God. That's so stupid.
more Batman Forever links where it's like Chase Meridian, yes, Nicole Kidman. That was my first introduction to Nicole Kidman, by the way. And she's like, I like Bruce Wayne, but I like Batman. But this is like the inverse, where it's like a bad Spider-Man parody where he's like, I hate Peter Parker, but he's Flash Thompson. Oh my god, he's Flash Thompson. All right, there, that's what I was looking for. I do like though how he's like, Batman, you're all for vengeance. And it's like in The Dark Knight where they talk about like, oh, look, we have all of these people who are stepping up to be Batman and like, you know, take justice into their own hands. Like, I love that this is like the dark coin side of like where Bruce Wayne would go. The whole idea of pairing people against each other who are the same except for. And so I think that worked really well, and I love that, and that's why the ending works at all. Where it's like the Saturday morning or the after school special of like, it's all about saving people.
Because after the hilarious case of mistaken identity, the Riddler goes on to say like, Batman, like, you're my hero. You know, like, look at what we were able to do together. Like, you've inspired me and all this stuff. And Batman's like, you sick fuck. You goddamn piece of shit.
I'll never join you. Don't you understand, Riddler? I am your father.
Speaking of fathers, I'm reading the
you
synopsis.
It's ready to believe in good.
Batman. I have an ace in my hole. I have an ace in the hole, and his
Did
name
you say
is
you have an ace in your hole?
Look. I don't know what the Riddler is has primed himself for. By the way, apparently Paul Dano put like saran wrap on his face so that his mask would stick tighter to him. And the first time he did that, he almost passed out.
Oh,
and then he proceeded to do that through like the rest of the movie. But they cut little air holes so his skin could breathe. I'm like, I appreciate that, because out of all of the extreme measures actors go through for their character, it seems like the most hazardous, but also the most sane and practical, but still. So he has said, like, if you're going to cosplay as me, do not do that. So naturally, all cosplayers are going to do that because they're cosplayers and that's what they do. Yeah, so this movie is so long that I forgot that Selena revealed that Carmine Falcone, for some reason they call him Falcone. Mm-hmm. So, Carmine Falcone is Selena's father, which is from Batman: The Long Halloween. So,
yep.
Yeah, I guess that's the problem. Is like they should have simplified. If you're gonna have as many characters as you have, they need to simplify the stories. Or in the case of like Gordon, give him a story, because he's kind of just like the Robin to Robert Pattinson's Batman. So I think that's one of the problems, is like Selena Kyle's story is like all over the place. And then James Gordon doesn't have a story. And John Turturro ends up being like the villain character that I remember the most, even though the Riddler's the main villain.
Yep.
So, the other thing I wanted to say was, no batarangs in this movie. He just has a giant bat knife in his chest.
Well, he has a batarang. He just doesn't throw it.
Are we really calling that the batarang? That like giant
That's the
thing on
batarang. His logo is the batarang.
Go ahead. Like, he's basically Bloodsport from the Suicide Squad, where every single piece of his equipment is a weapon he can use.
Yep.
You know, we talked about the chase scene. The one thing I'll talk about on the car chase scene was it reminded me of Ronin, in the way of like, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool because it's like really, it's all practical. And then I was like, God damn, I really wish more people would just watch the chase scene in Ronin and like do that.
Yeah.
For their car chase scenes. Because it feels like they were trying to do something between like what they did in Bullet, which, have you seen Bullet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you like Bullet?
Yeah. It's very, very 60s, but
I was like, I fell asleep like 4 times while watching it. I literally only watched it for the car chase scene. But what Like, it feels like they were trying to go for that, but didn't quite know how to do it. And also, they ran into a lot of problems because, like, I'm going to film a car chase scene in the rain with a lot of fire at night. How could this go wrong? Like, God. Oh, my God.
And all the shots will be from inside the cars.
I will say my favorite part, like the part that I laughed out loud at, like, because we're talking, everyone keeps saying this movie is like realistic and gritty, which it does feel that way, but I think it is better to look at it as
like schizophrenic, maybe.
or like I guess like gritty nightmare is where like gravity still works the way gravity should. It's not like that fairy tale-ish, but like in that chase scene, you know, Batman is like, he's stuck. And then out of nowhere, a car has like one of those car ramps on it that just drops so he can go over it.
Yep.
I was cheering in my seat. I thought it was so corny. I loved it. I was like, this is contrived and I love it.
Yeah,
I
cannot hammer this enough. This movie is not realistic at all.
No, it's amazing though.
It's a great like dark fantasy though.
That's why the musical score is so monotonous, is because it has to feel like a dream. That's the metronome of the dream.
Oh, look at you justifying people's bad choices in retrospect.
Yeah, that's all I do on this show. Also, like the one missed thing is like they have that shot of like Colin Farrell laughing because he escaped Batman, and that would have been the perfect time to have the Batmobile drop down in the shot. Mm-hmm. Like that would have been the perfect way to end it, but instead they had to cut to the mirror, probably because they couldn't get the shot to line up correctly of the Batmobile coming down off the ramp. It got cut to shreds, and it's like it sucked. What did you think about the other action in the movie? Just quickly, since we're all about that action on this podcast.
I thought it was good. I mean, it was well choreographed, well executed. I think they obviously the coolest moment is the fight in the dark where that's only lit up by gunshots.
You mean the seizure warning fight?
The seizure warning fight, yeah. Like that looks really cool, even though like it's not very visceral. But I think that's one thing I kind of noticed is the camera does hang back a lot on like the hand-to-hand fights, which I think works for this movie. I could see how it wouldn't work in other movies.
I think it was nice because like we complain constantly about Hollywood like cutting into action scenes too much, and even though this movie had a lot of cuts, at least in the action scenes there was a good amount of like just letting the fight play out the way it should play out. Mm-hmm. So I liked that. The only other thing I have to talk about on this movie is the cameo at the end. What did you think about that cameo at the end?
Does it even qualify as a cameo?
I mean, it does. I think it counts. I think it counts. Do you know who is playing the Arkham prisoner?
No.
It's my favorite, Barry Keoghan.
Oh no.
So you already know my thoughts on it.
I didn't like it, and now I hate it. Now I really hate it.
I think the only thing that would make it palatable is in the next, 5 The Batman movies we get, if they never show the Joker. Then it's like, okay, perfect. But like that scene, I was like, why? Just let the character sleep. Just a little bit.
Can we not have a Joker, please? I'm so fucking sick of people trying to like one up each other on the Joker, because every time they try, it just gets worse. The Joker is devolved into like a Dumber and Dumber parody of itself.
I don't remember what I gave the Joker when we reviewed the movie way back in episode 2, but like in my mind, it has just become the DC movie that I absolutely hate. Like it has just gone from like, I probably said like it was a witness for Joaquin Phoenix's performance, but now it just makes me, anytime the Joker is mentioned, I cringe. I can't. I'm so tired of that version of the Joker, and I'm very tired of the Joker in general. Unless it's written by Paul Dini, but
I'm sick of the Joker. I'm sick of every version of the Joker. I don't want, like, Joaquin Phoenix, I love him. I don't want his Joker. I don't want Jared Leto. I don't want Barry Keoghan. I don't want that red-haired kid from Gotham. I don't want any of it. I don't want any Jokers anymore.
I don't
no
want
more
Billy
Joker.
Magnuson, not for another 20 years.
No.
Let the Joker.
Okay, if
let
they
the
cast
Joker
Tom
lie.
Hardy as the Joker, that's the only exception where I'd be like, okay, you had my curiosity, now you have my attention. But other than that, no Jokers. I don't want any.
Let's stay away from the Joker. Let's have more fun with other characters, please.
Yeah.
He's got the best rogues gallery. So just enjoy that rogues gallery for a bit.
It's like how Superman has all these villains, but the only ones we get are Lex Luthor and General Zod.
Yeah, and Darkseid. Like, come on, give us Brainiac, gosh darn it. Brainiac on a giant typewriter. Do you have any last thoughts about the Batman?
No, I mean, it's good. It just needs to be shorter.
It does. I was offered the chance to see it twice this last week, and the reason I didn't do it is because I did the math quickly. Because it's a half an hour of it's a half hour of trailers. Before
You got to
the movie
watch
starts.
that Baz Luhrmann Elvis trailer again.
Oh my god, dude, shoot me now. You have the Baz Luhrmann Elvis trailer, and then we see it at AMC. And there's they have the regular AMC intro, and then they have a separate section where Nicole Kidman narrates it. And I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on the podcast
yeah,
before.
you've told me.
So not only do I have to sit through a half an hour of trailers, but I also have to sit through the Nicole Kidman, and then I have the Nicole Kidman, the Batman, and then I get the movie, and the movie's 3 hours, and I look at it and I'm like, what do I need to get done, and can I afford to get to not need these 3 hours? And even then, I had to go to the bathroom. Oh, we didn't talk about the Commissioner Gordon. Finally, Commissioner Gordon, without any conflict, is just buddies with Batman, which I appreciate as well.
Mm-hmm.
No, them fighting. But I missed that scene where he walks in and he's like, "Hey, brother, I'm gonna give you the key so you can get out of here." I missed that part of the movie because I was just I could not hold it in anymore. So yeah,
I stopped drinking any liquids for 2 hours leading up to the movie, which is probably also why I had a pounding headache when we left.
Yeah, that would. Did you have any liquids when you watched the movie?
Nope.
Oh, I bought a giant soda and slowly I waited an hour before I started sipping that thing, but I had a lot of water before then, so that's guys, it's not the time to drink too much water. Stop liquids an hour before and go for a run so you pee. And then go. So, so if they wanted more information, even though we don't have a review of the Batman on our website, where would they go if they want to connect with us, Gabe?
You can go to underthewheels.com, Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or just email us at video@underthewheels.com.
Sounds good. Music is by Mike. If you have the 3 hours to spare, go see The Batman. It was fun, and it's clearly doing badly, so we need people to go and see it. Just kidding. It's my AMC, every single theater was playing The Batman. There's 2 other theaters that were playing other things, and it was just Dog and something else that was rotating.
I know. At the theater I went to, one wing of the theater was all The Batman, and then the other wing of the theater was half The Batman.
You just walk by and the door opens and all you hear is bum 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 bum.
Justice.
On vengeance. Also, day 87. I haven't had a bowel movement in 5 days. I hate the Riddler. Bullet journal, baby. On that note, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Gabe.
And you have just been Under the Wheels.
November 15th. That gas station sushi is not agreeing with me. Remind Alfred. Never buy sushi after the expiration date. There's more to life than vengeance. And there's more to sushi than gas station sushi.
Do you remember the Batman cartoon?
We talked about this
on Warner Brothers.
We talked about this on the last episode.
Okay. You remember the theme song and how when it was over, they would show the titles for the show, and there would be some voice that was just like, "The Batman."
No, I never actually watched much of the show. I remember
was not that
Rastafarian
good.
Joker.
But I just remember the Batman at the beginning of every episode. So every time I see anything about this movie, that just pops into my head.
I'm listening to the song now. It also was it was done by that team that did the Jackie Chan adventures. So Bruce Wayne's face is super. It's got such a weird
Hawaii
face shape. Hawaii? Did you say Hawaii or Kauai?
Kauai. He does have the same. Yeah, it's weird. He does look a lot like Jackie Chan in the Jackie Chan adventures.
Well, I remember that they drew the nose a certain way, and I know that it was the Jackie Chan adventures that drew the nose that way because I copied it when I was trying to learn how to draw. I copied it from the Jackie Chan adventures. I was like, oh, this is a cartoony looking nose, and then Batman has it, Bruce Wayne has it, and I'm like, why? Just a whole lot of why. Why did the show come out, and why was it so so less awesome than Batman the Animated Series? That's what the Batman episode is about. It's not really about the Robert Pattinson movie. It's just about
the cartoon.
The cartoon.
Batman. Yeah, it's everything about that show's visual design seemed almost intentionally worse compared to the
Bruce Timm
show. Version. Yeah, it's what if every character looked ridiculous and stupid.
Yeah. I love how we just refer to it as the Bruce Timm Batman when there was a whole nother guy, Eric Romanowski or something like that, who was also who had taken over the reins, and the best stuff of the show was written by Paul Dini. We should be calling it Paul Dini's Batman.
It's really Paul Dini's Batman show, but just the look of it is Bruce Timm. So we always call it Bruce Timm's Batman.
So you know how I'm a fan of Kevin Nolan?
Mm-hmm.
He did some designs for the show, and Mike Mignola did the design for Mr. Freeze for Batman the Animated Series. So, fun fact about that show. And then the weird square-shaped version for season 4, where everyone is just right angles for days.
Yeah, I know. What if everyone was even more angular in season 4? No. Guys, how do we keep this show fresh for season 4? More angles.
More angles, less eyeballs. What?
I know. It's weird how the look of the show got way worse in season 4. And then got even worse for the Batman.
I don't hate the look of season 4. I kind of like the angular streamlined look, and it was a lot easier to animate because everything was a lot more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
But it still looks weird when the Joker comes on and he just has these little dots for eyes, and he's like, "I'm the Joker."
It's what? You're just a very pale man.
You look like 1930s Mickey Mouse with those dots for eyes. I can't take you seriously at all.
Finished.